My name is Nicola.white. I'm a licensed Thames mudlark, well known for mudlarking on the River Thames and for researching the stories behind the objects I find. What happened when I handed over 10 of my mudlarking finds from Greenwich and Deptford in southeast London to 10 heritage trainees to research? What untold histories and intriguing facts did they uncover during the 7-week Lost and Found project? Come with me during this exclusive 10-part Lost and Found series to meet the trainees and to hear what their research has revealed. The Lost and Found project is produced by the Thames Festival Trust and made possible by a grant from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Hi everyone, my name's Nicola.white and welcome to the Thames foreshore. I'm here today to meet one of the 10 heritage trainees who studied one of my mudlarking finds from the Greenwich and Deptford area as part of the Lost and Found project. So we're going to meet here today and find out what he studied and why. So whilst I'm waiting, I'm going to pour myself a nice cup of tea and he should be here very shortly. I think I can see him in the distance over there. Indeed, here he is. Hi, George.
Oh my gosh, hello. A coincidence.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Welcome to my little setup here. Can I offer you a cup of tea?
I would love a cup of tea.
Do you sit down,
lovely,
take a seat?
A lovely living room here, great view.
Yes, in a Tideline art mug. Nonetheless, Empress Grey tea, only the best.
Of course.
So George, thank you very much for joining me here today. I wonder if you could reveal to us what it is that you chose to study and also just introduce yourself to my viewers.
Yes, absolutely. My name's George. Hello. And the object that I was lucky enough to be able to study is this gorgeous little pewter syringe tip that's only half of the syringe. It probably would have had a barrel and a little plunger on top of it as well, but even then it's such a dainty little size. It's
It
beautiful.
is, isn't it? There it lies on a blood red bit of tissue paper and yes, really shows it off as an artefact like it is. Still even has Thames mud on it. And I remember the day I found that. I can't find the footage, annoyingly, of when I find it. I'm going to keep searching for it. But George, so why did you choose to study the syringe?
I think I was drawn to it straight away. I think a syringe is a very interesting object just because, you know, you have an immediate kind of bodily reaction to seeing one, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you know, all of the memories of like pain from childhood vaccinations, you know, fears of needles, all of that comes back to you, and it's really interesting to sort of see a historical object and immediately have that connection with it. And I also was really drawn to it because it's sort of, you know, if you tell someone you found a syringe on the beach, they'll probably be quite worried these days. It's a very like evocative thing and a very emotive action, and I think that was quite striking to me, and I wanted to know more about it and whether, you know, our ideas of medical waste now, of danger and risk, still sort of held up in the past, how far back I could get before it started to change. It definitely took me on that journey.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because I must admit, when I'm beachcombing or walking along the Thames, sometimes on certain tides when there's a lot of debris and plastic washed up, you do come across syringes, and of course it's quite terrifying, nasty, scary, dangerous. You really realise that you should be wearing gloves. But when I found this on the mud a couple of years ago, I was actually so excited because I knew what it was. I knew it was a pewter syringe, and it was just something more of a historical artefact. And I certainly don't look at the modern ones as historical artefacts. So yeah, so that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, and it, you know, it makes you wonder, you know, 20, 50 years time, how much of the plastic ones will be left, and people might stop being scared of them and start thinking, oh, hang on, that's a great example of sort of 2020s medical technology. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, no, it's very true, isn't it, how our perceptions of things change. So you've written an essay in this lost and found book all about the journey that the syringe took you on. Are there a couple, 2 or 3 points that you would like to tell us that you'd particularly like myself and my viewers to know about what you found out about the syringe?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started researching it, sort of most of the information I was finding was a very technological perspective, sort of histories of advancements in syringes themselves, you know, how they're built, what they're made of, how you use them. And I think a syringe like this, just because it's so small, probably wouldn't have had a needle or anything through it. I think it's mostly for sort of irrigation and flushing. Yeah. And as far as I can tell by the size of it, probably a people's urethras.
Yes.
Which is, you know, I'm sure what everybody hopes when they find a syringe on the beach, to be its history. But and I was, you know, that whole time I was thinking back to like when you found it, when I saw it, how emotive that was and how kind of dry the sort of technical histories were, and was there a way I could find out what it was like to use them and to experience them, and what would that have felt like? And that led me to a lot of really interesting patient histories.
I'm sure.
Especially about the Naval Hospital here, the Pensioners Hospital.
Yeah.
Which was sort of, I had this, I think, preconception of hospitals in the past, of medical environments, as quite a charitable sort of place, somewhere that was sort of modelled around that. And this one being a naval hospital was totally different.
Yeah.
The level of regulation and authority and the behavioural expectations of these pensioners was really interesting to me. And they have quite a lot of very interesting archival material that's sort of gossip.
Do they?
From people's trials and punishments, basically, where everybody's weighing in on it. And it is quite a grim read, but worth getting into because it was so different to really make a connection with a hospital as something, a state-run naval environment that's ostensibly for care, but mostly about controlling patient behaviour. Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting, and some of these punishments were really elaborate.
Go on, give us an example. I want to hear about some of these punishments.
Well, if there were people, the one that stood out to me because it's always Shakespearean. If there was anybody who was sort of an escape risk, they would dress them all up in yellow and be like,
really?
This is, you know, these are our canaries, is what they called them, and you can't, you know, if the orderlies saw them, they would know that's a flight risk. We can't let them leave.
Gosh.
And they, you know, a lot of the pensioners weren't allowed to have decorations in their rooms. They were really stripped of their identities when they were there, and you know, family visits had to be organised by the hospital members, even though most of them did have families and children outside of the hospital. They were really sort of objectified in that way and depersonalized in the environment. And I think it was, definitely, it's not a fun fact necessarily, but really something to think about is the connections between medical environments like that and you know, incarceration.
Absolutely. And we're talking about, are you talking about the hospital that's just here? Because there's the old Royal Naval College is just there behind us. But originally it was the Seamen's Hospital, wasn't it? Built late 17th, early 18th century. And so these are patients or residents of there that would have been subjected to these...
Yeah, very naval models of medical care. And obviously these were not patients who were in there to be treated and sent back out. They were there for chronic conditions or disabling conditions at the time, and it's very much like an interesting look at how sort of state of medical environments respond to things that take a long time and that don't have a clearly defined cure or a start and end.
That's fascinating. It's amazing to think that something that I found on the mud, like this pewter syringe here, can lead to discovering these basically untold histories of Greenwich and Deptford. I've never ever heard about that kind of punishment before. Actually, I enjoyed reading your essay, and there was one bit in there, well, a few bits actually, that I found really interesting. And that was until 1795, seamen were fined up to 15 shillings, several days' wages, for having contracted a venereal disease. And this, combined with the stigma associated with mercurial treatments and a fear of social consequences, encouraged them to conceal symptoms from naval doctors and seek treatment from the broader medical marketplace, where patent treatments with vague assertions of medical authority thrived. Yeah, that I found.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how sort of stigma and shame can be a barrier to care in that way, right? You know, it's something that happens now as well, and to see that sort of transhistorically it was. I mean, again, not a very fun fact, but I think that something that did come up for me over and over again with this research was the environments that they were in, the sort of the stigma, the shame, the approaches to patient behaviour and control were so rigid, and the patients sort of continued to try and exercise their agency in any way they could anyway. And you know, in the case of sailors, for example, we think a lot about, you know, people faking illnesses to get off of ships, but there's also you know, there's also faking illnesses to get treatment for the illness that you do have going on. There's escaping from ships to go to hospital to get treatment. There's also people sometimes enlisted to get treatment for diseases that they had on land because they couldn't afford the treatment any other way. And if you're in the army, you've got more reliable access. So even in a situation like that where it is so restrictive. Yeah.
Fascinating. So this syringe essentially would have been used to treat a sexually transmitted disease, do you think?
As far as I can tell, it's been quite hard to narrow in on because there's no sort of maker's mark or anything. I couldn't, I'm afraid, date it.
I think it's probably from the 1800s. That's my feeling. Probably maybe late 18th.
Yeah. And in that case, my instinct would be
early 19th.
Naval, or at least like sea usage, just because pewter was so popular for ships, because it's, you know, it doesn't shatter. It's very easy to sort of clean again and reuse, which they would have done.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you've written here, the short body and nozzle resembles the urethral irrigation syringes. Sorry, everyone. Sorry. Found in the surgeon's cabin of the Mary Rose, which sank in 1545. So actually, the design for syringes hasn't really changed much
for these
at
little
all.
pewter ones, absolutely. Like they were still in use all the way through advances in sort of glass barrels, brass, other materials being used. Pewter was it was so cheap, it was so easy to access, especially in a dockland environment. It was everywhere, and it stuck around for a really long time.
Yeah, and these were used mainly to flush the urethras of those experiencing sexually transmitted infections with liquids like mercury, oh my gosh, or zinc sulfate in an effort to treat their symptoms. And of course, being a maritime area, Greenwich and Deptford, it's surprising that I probably haven't found more of these. But I must admit, I'm delighted to have found it. I mean, even though the history associated with it is a little bit, it's sort of, like you said, it does make you recoil a little bit. It's just so very interesting. And where I found it, I'm pretty certain it would have dropped off of a ship.
Wow, it's perfectly formed. It's beautiful, and the fact that you can see all the threads and the details is,
So, George, would you say that this syringe has inspired you?
I mean, yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot, and something that it has really inspired, well, two things, I guess, is a curiosity about the everyday objects in my life. I never would have stopped to think, you know, next time I get an injection, is this object, like, what are the complex histories of this? Who made it? Where did it come from? Where did they get the materials? Who came up with the design? Like, there are so many questions that go into making anything, but this has really brought to light for me. And as well, you know, as a way into patient histories and experiences, it's really made me appreciate sort of on a personal level those things. You know, again, I think because it is so tactile, because it does bring to mind such like intimate personal moments.
Yeah.
You know, you see the complexity of it, but also the interpersonal part. Like it really has, you know, changed the way that I think about history in that sense. And not just as sort of like a series of technological changes that happened, but also hundreds and hundreds of moments of human interactions as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts. It's
thank
fascinating
you
to hear
for
them.
lending me your syringe.
No, my great pleasure. And you can read George's essay about the syringe. What's the title of it, actually? Look. Yes. Syringes, Symbolism and Stigma, Finding Marginalised Histories by George Jones. So you can read this essay in this Lost and Found book, which you can download for free from the Thames Festival Trust website, which I will put here, the details on the screen. And you can also receive a hard copy, and I'll put details in the description to this video as to how you can do that. So did you enjoy being part of the Lost and Found project?
It was absolutely fantastic, yes. I would do it all over again.
Would you?
For the rest of the year. If they came to me and said, hey, we're running this for a bit longer, it was amazing. So many wonderful people, so many absolutely brilliant curators and exhibitors and mudlarks as well, people that we've spoken to. Yeah, it was fantastic.
So, yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to reading more of your essays in the future.
Yeah. Thank you. I look forward to reading, hopefully, years and years of everybody else's as well. I hope they can do this again.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, when we finish our tea, we could go and walk through the grounds of the hospital, the old Royal Naval College up here, and take a little look before we head off home.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Brill.